Hi everyone, today we've got another 5 foundations to put to the test. I've been testing these out now for a number of weeks. I have collated all of my thoughts and I am ready to share. Who will these foundations be best for? What skin type will they suit the best? Will they be for you? Were they in fact for me? I am going to be ranking these foundations at the end of the video, but first and foremost we're going to go through each individual foundation in turn with a 10-hour wear test. So we've got foundations from Givenchy, One Size, Anastasia Beverly Hills, Hourglass and Dior. Enough chatter, let's get on with it. Just a little bit of personal info. I do have an oily T-zone. I also have dry patches everywhere else on my skin. So these foundations are really going to be put through their paces. And hopefully by the end of it, you will see very close up how these react with my dry skin and also with my oily skin. So hopefully you can determine whether these foundations are going to be right for your skin type. So without further ado, let's jump into Dior Forever Hydra Nude first. This is Dior Forever Hydra Nude. This has a glass bottle. It's classic, it's elegant, it's heavy, it's chunky, and it's well designed with a pump. It's £50 in the UK and you get 30 mils worth of product. Comes in 18 shades. I've gone for the shade 1N, which is a really good colour match for me. It's supposed to give you medium coverage with that second skin natural finish, and it contains 96% natural origin ingredients. It's alcohol free, but it does contain a fragrance. This is really quite a thick consistency, but it feels very gel-like, very cooling and calming and very lightweight once you start to buff this into the skin. It gives light coverage as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what they were talking about with this whole medium coverage malarkey. It goes on as light coverage. You can build it up, but not too much, and it gives a very hydrated finish. I don't find that this is airbrushing, but it does look very natural. It evens out the skin tone. It feels super hydrating, cooling, and very, very comfortable. It wears like a foundation. It feels and looks like a tinted moisturizer. I've never had anything on my skin like this before. It just feels very different to how it wears. I was expecting this to last around about 5 hours on my skin, just like a tinted moisturizer would do, but actually I was pleasantly surprised. After 10 hours, most of the foundation was intact. Of course, it was super shiny by the end of the day, but overall I did quite like it. The feel of this is what I fell in love with. It is extremely hydrating, feeling more like a moisturizer than a foundation. At the end of the day though, if I'm going to be completely honest, I do prefer other foundations from Dior. This didn't wow me enough to want to use the entire bottle and then repurchase. Moving on to the Anastasia Beverly Hills Impeccable Blurring Second Skin Matte Foundation. This comes in a frosted glass bottle with a pump, and the pump dispenses a very small amount of product, which is a really good thing because a little goes a very long way with this foundation. It's a really thick consistency, it holds its shape. This is going to set you back £39 in the UK. You get the standard 30 mils and this comes in 25 shades. I've gone for the shade 1N. This is supposed to give you a medium to full coverage with a velvet matte finish. It's also supposed to be long wearing with a pore blurring formula, water resistant with no flashback, and it's not supposed to oxidize at all. This does contain alcohol, but it's fragrance and essential oil free. For me, I think you get the best application with a brush. A sponge doesn't really react well with this formula, in my opinion. This is where it gets a little sticky as far as I'm concerned. It does say on the website this is supposed to be suitable for all skin types, especially oily skin. Now, that to me is a massive big red flag right there. If this is supposed to be excellent for oily skin, how is this going to react with my dry skin? I thought this was going to have challenges for application because the formula dries down so quickly, but actually I found it quite fuss-free. It didn't dry down overly fast on my skin that I had to work in sections. I found it quite smoothing on my skin and really pleasant to apply. The problem that I had was that this looked really quite flat on my skin and made my skin look a little bit lifeless. It didn't really have any glow to it whatsoever. It was a very flat matte. The good thing was I didn't feel that this settled into my dryness immediately, but unfortunately for me, that's where the positives of this foundation actually ended. This had really disappointing wear. I was expecting it to wear for a lot longer than it actually did. After 5 hours, it looked very heavy, it looked patchy in areas, with no foundation left on my chin at all. It did last the 10 hours, but my dryness looked very, very dry, and in between my brows and around my nose looked cakey and shiny. Let's move on to the One Size Turn Up the Base Full Beat Liquid Foundation. Can we skip over this foundation, please? Oh, I have to relive it all over again. Right, here goes. This is the One Size Turn Up the Base Full Beat Liquid Foundation. This comes in a frosted glass bottle with a pump. It has a very thick consistency and dries down quite quickly, but it's not a challenge to apply. It's going to set you back £44 in the UK. You get the standard 30 mils. It comes in 38 shades, and I've gone for the shade Light 20N, which quite frankly is a little too yellowy on me. That is my fault, not the foundation's fault, but if you are my shade twin, just know that this wasn't an exact match for me. This is most definitely going to give you a full coverage with a soft matte finish. It's supposed to be a long-wearing, waterproof and sweat-proof formula, and it's non-comedogenic. The formula is also alcohol-free and fragrance and essential oil-free as well. So this immediately gives you a full coverage, but it can be applied incredibly sparingly for a more medium coverage if that's what you prefer. For best application for me, I prefer a brush, but you can apply this with your fingers or a sponge as well. So whichever method of application you prefer, go with that. This for me gives a luminous matte finish, and it's very smoothing and very blurring on my 45-year-old textured skin. It doesn't sit in my fine lines or dryness immediately, but straight after application, my husband Wes said that my foundation looked a little rough, and he didn't mean that as in bad, he meant that as in textured, which I suppose is bad anyway, but immediately he said there's something off about your foundation, and he very rarely comments on my foundation unless it's something really positive. So for him to say something really negative immediately was yeah, very telling. This went cakey and dry very, very quickly. It also crept into the smile lines at the corners of my mouth. It looked very heavy on my chin, on my nose, in between my brows. And although it was all still there, I had to take this off after 7 hours. On the day that I was doing a wear test for this particular foundation, we were going out in the evening, and I actually wanted to look nice. And after 7 hours, this looked so bad. I just thought I cannot go out like this and give this the full 10 hours. So after 7 hours, I removed it and I did my makeup again. Next up, we've got the Hourglass Illusion Luminous Glow Foundation. This comes in a squeezy tube, which is great for travel, and it still looks luxurious even though it's plastic. I'm not quite sure how they've managed to do that, but I really like this packaging. This is going to set you back £58 in the UK, super expensive, but you do get slightly more than standard at 35 mils. This comes in 26 shades, and surprisingly, I went for shade 6, which is a really good match for me, maybe a little bit darker than my normal skin tone, but I really, really like the effect that this gives. This is supposed to give a medium coverage with a luminous finish. It's got quite a lot of skincare benefits within this formula. It's also got an SPF of 30, so it's a little bit of a makeup hybrid. It is alcohol-free, fragrance-free, and essential oil-free, and the sunscreen filters in here are homosalate, ethylhexyl salicylate, and avobenzone. This seriously hydrates and it smooths a little bit. It does say it's supposed to be transfer resistant. I didn't find that at all. In fact, if this is supposed to be transfer resistant, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, because for me this lifts on absolutely everything. It's also supposed to be long wearing and crease resistant, and it's not supposed to oxidize either. This formula is incredibly easy to apply. It really does sink into the skin, but a lot of the shine sits on the surface, and regardless of how much I powder this down, within the space of 30 minutes, this is once again super, super shiny. This is dewy, on the next level, and we are just on the cusp of this being a little bit too dewy for me. So any more dewiness for this foundation, this would be a definite no-no for me, but at this level, I can just about put up with it. Even though this was seriously shiny, it did wear considerably well for this type of a foundation, and I was pleasantly surprised. In future, I would like to carry a powder compact around with me wherever I go if I have this foundation on, just to dim the sheen down in my oilier areas as the day goes on. But for some people that do love that glowy lit from within look, I think you're really going to be pleasantly surprised by this. And it does give you a little bit of extra protection from the sun, although I definitely would not use this as my standalone sunscreen, because for the amount that you apply, and that is very little in my case, you're not going to get the SPF 30 that is advertised on the bottle. You're probably going to get more like 5. And finally, let's look at the Givenchy Prism Libre Glow Serum Foundation. This comes in a clear glass bottle with a pump, and it's got a medium light consistency. It is a little bit runny, but not runny enough to fall off the back of my hand with gravity. This costs £48 in the UK. You get the standard 30 mils. It comes in 30 different shades. I've actually gone for the shade 2C because I went into store to try and get colour match for this, and all the neutral shades were a little bit too yellowy and made me look quite ill. So I've gone for a cooler shade, and actually this looks really nice on my skin tone. So I would say this is more on the pinky neutral side than seriously cool. There's absolutely no mention of what coverage this is supposed to give on the Givenchy website, which really baffled me, but I would say this is supposed to give a light to medium coverage. It gives a glowy finish, and it's supposed to be waterproof and transfer resistant. It does contain alcohol and fragrance, so for those of you that are sensitive to those ingredients, this is one to give a miss. The formula applies beautifully. You can get light medium to full medium coverage out of this, and it gives a smoothing, radiant finish. It's not overly glowy in my opinion, even though glow comes in the name of this foundation. I would say it's more radiant than glowy. Glowy for me sounds like it's going to be dewy, and this is more radiant in my opinion. Am I going into this a little bit too far? Am I being a little bit picky? Probably, but you know. On first application, this didn't settle in lines, wrinkles, texture, or dryness. This also wears beautifully throughout the day, and it's all present after 8 hours. I did actually apply this a little bit late in the day, so I only got an 8-hour wear test out of this, but it's totally passable, all still present, and would definitely have lasted another couple of hours. So let's rank them. Let's put them in order. I think you know what's going to be in my 5th position. The One Size Turn Up the Base Full Beat Liquid Foundation is definitely not for me. I am the worst person to test out this foundation though, because full coverage really isn't my jam. It's not really for me. I do like a little bit of skin poking through a foundation, and this was too full coverage. It was too flat matte, just made my skin look really dull and lifeless, and went very cakey and dry throughout the day. So yeah, definitely not for me. In position 4, we've got Anastasia Beverly Hills. This one was a real letdown for me. I thought I was going to love this on first application because it was really smoothing and blurring, and the wear time for this really just let me down. So position number 4. In 3rd place, we've got the foundation that I have on today. Now, I do really like this foundation, but, and there is a huge but, if you don't like a little bit of glow on your skin, you are definitely not going to like this, because this gives a lot of glow on the skin, and like I said before, this is just on the cusp of too much glow for me. I do think it looks really natural. It does have that added protection in there. I like the shade of this, shade 6. I think it is really lovely, but as you can see here, it's just starting to look a little bit too much like I've been on a jog. So yeah, it's position number 3. It is beautiful, but doesn't deserve the top spot as far as I'm concerned. In 2nd place, we've got the Dior Forever Hydra Nude. This really did wow me but didn't wow me. So I wasn't expecting this to look and feel like tinted moisturizer. This is definitely a hydrating formula, which I really like, and it's probably going to be one that I reach for more in those summer months rather than the winter months where we're at the moment. It is just starting to turn a little spring-like in the UK, but I still don't find myself gravitating towards this enough to warrant picking it up first thing in the morning. So second position. Top spot goes to the Givenchy Prism Libra Glow Serum Foundation. I think this wore so beautifully on my skin, and it wasn't a glow foundation, which I was pleasantly surprised about. This was more a radiant matte, and it wore like a matte foundation, so it was extremely long wearing. I don't think that this was transfer resistant. This did lift on things, so if you're wanting an extreme transfer resistant and waterproof formula, I don't think you're going to get it from this, but I thought it was really flattering on my skin, which is what is really important to me. I didn't think it looked massively like foundation. It looked really natural on me, and it was a winner. I really like it. So I guess it depends on what you want from a foundation. I don't know who the one size is supposed to be targeted at. I think it looks like a foundation. It makes my skin look unnatural, and it didn't wear well at all. So yeah, not quite sure who this is supposed to be targeted at, because if this is supposed to be for those with an oily skin, I only have an oily T-zone, and this just wore shockingly on my skin for numerous days wear. So I will be glad that I don't have to put this on my skin anymore. If you've had a completely different experience to me though, I would love to hear from you, and so would everybody else in the comment section. If you've tried any of these foundations out, please let everybody know your thoughts and experiences with them in the comment section. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. Please let me know what you've thought about it in the comment section below. Please also don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave, and hope to see you all in the next video. Bye everyone.